This is Lori, and I'm in Zone 8 up by Mount Hood in Oregon. I was talking in my other video about my hydrangea tree. Well, it's just about ready to bloom. This thing is amazing. This year I'm going to try drying some of the blooms, so that should be fun. And then, air conditioning just went on. Sorry about that. Um, this is like a variety of from blueberries, except for I call them champagne berries. They're pink and yellow. And my garden actually begins over here. My flower garden, my backyard flower garden. Now, the reason that I'm making this video is because I watched my video, the first one I had on my YouTube channel, in my garden in bloom, and everything was so small. I went, oh my gosh, I can't believe that my garden has grown that much. I have a bunch of glads that are just about ready to bloom, gladiolus. I don't know in my first video if this was even in bloom yet, but the original bloom on this delphinium was like, can you see my hand? It was like that tall. It was probably almost a foot tall. Oh my gosh, that thing was so beautiful. And it just keeps throwing off shoots at blooming. But look at the detail in this flower. It's lavender, and then the petals behind them are blue. I love that delphinium. I hope that I am successful in propagating that thing at the end of the year. So not next year, but the year after that, I'll have, hopefully, the same variety. There's my glads. My dahlia, a little dahlia that I had that has turned into a huge dahlia. I don't know if I want to cut it back. It's kind of pushing the lobularia out of the way. And then those are some sunflowers, snapdragons that I grew from seed. And there is a salvia, a blue one. I have a purple variety out in the front flower bed that it does such a better job of re-blooming when I trim it. I have these zinnias, and I have had a whole bunch of them bloom, but they were a hybrid that I bought from a seed company, and they don't look anything like the picture. I wrote them and told them I'm disappointed, but I'm not going to make them give me a refund or anything, but I'm not going to keep the seeds either. And then here is an echinacea, which I made a beautiful bouquet today. My peonies is back there. It finished blooming a long time ago, and I'll cut it back this fall, and then next year it'll be its second year, so I should probably have maybe 8 or 10 blooms. And then back there in the back, foxgloves. I've picked many bouquets off of the foxgloves, and it just keeps sprouting back. I see a ladybug on there. And then the hydrangeas. We had a really, really bad heat spell, a heat wave. It got hotter than I ever remember it being in Oregon. It was 116 one day, and that was just like 3-4 days in a row, but that was the high. And some flowers just didn't do well in the heat, of course. You can imagine the hydrangea being one of them. There's just not anything you can really do about it. I watered 3 times a day, and there were still things that just scorched. It scorched them. There's some more of those zinnias that I don't really care for. And one thing that I learned in this garden right here is that I planted a lot of things way too close to each other, so they're getting crowded out. Like one thing that you can't see right here, I have a big white lily that is going to bloom. That's going to be so gorgeous. And I have glads around here, like this one here is just in the middle of the sedum and it's kind of crowded out. One thing that did make it, this hydrangea, somebody just gave me this little hydrangea start. I don't know if this is going to make it. We'll see next spring. But one thing that did make it through the heat wave, which was like about 2 weeks ago, was this foxglove. I'm so excited that they look like they're doing good. I'm gonna just next week I have some work I'm gonna do on this little path right here. This is just kind of ornamental. It's not really leading to anything, but I'm gonna fill in some with some gravel and some stones and make it look a lot nicer. This is my shade garden, one of my main shade gardens, and that again in the video, the reason that I'm doing a new video today is because these were little teeny tiny plants in my other video, and now they're starting to get a lot bigger and fill in. Like I said, I have fuchsia white, fuchsia white, fuchsia white. So I have a little drift there of impatience. And then this impatient is going to start blooming again real soon. And it's beautiful. There's not any of the really pretty flowers left on it because of the heat wave. But it'll bloom in it. It's double. It has double buds on. They're just gorgeous. Snapdragons coming up. I don't even know if I had these snapdragons here yet. And then a dahlia, and the dahlia has gotten, it took it a long time for this dahlia to actually take off. It was the little dinky tiny thing for a long time, for months and months, maybe because it was spring. But that's the color that it is. It's going to bloom really nicely here in another week or so. Some more snapdragons, and here is I love this hydrangea, and oh look, you can see the damage the heat wave did to it. But this is a Seaside Serenade, and there's like 5 different varieties. I have a variegated pink and white, and there's just a little bit of green in there. It's so pretty. But one thing that I just love about this plant is that when I first planted it, I broke off a stem, and I said, oh well, I'll just give it a try, and I stuck that little stem that I broke off in the dirt down there, and guess what? It is growing. I'm so excited about that. In about 2-3 years, I will have another geranium this big. Anyway, what I'm going to do with this, I found out that this is not a good place to have this planted, and I'm taking out a hosta over at the other side, moving it under the other side of the garden, moving it over to another place under the tree, and I'm taking this hydrangea and putting it over there because it gets the morning sun, the cool morning sun, but by 10 o'clock it's in the shade. So I just think it's going to be much happier. Here's another delphinium that I had. It was beautiful, just dark blue. It's really doing really good. I had to cut it down because it bloomed, was finished, but it's growing, new starts. I think that thing is going to be beautiful next year. I'm excited to see it come back. And then there's some snapdragons that I started in the house a long time ago, last spring. And I have my second kind of sunflower. This one is they are, what is the name of those? Teddy bear. I kind of planted them kind of late, but they only get about a foot high, and then they have a round flower like that. Not real big. They'll be cute for vases is what they'll be good for. There's my artichoke. So next year they'll probably get a couple of heads, get artichokes on it. And then there are those zinnias again that I didn't really care for. They didn't look anything like what the picture. Then I have all the way down this fence. That's one reason that I'm doing this video. Everything was so small in my first video. These are sunflowers. I don't remember the variety, and I threw away the package. And there's some of those zinnias in there, and then I have glads mixed in there. And there's one down, well, I noticed a couple of them, of the sunflowers that are getting ready to bloom, but I think it'll be a while. And then I have glads. Now, what I did with the gladiolus is I planted like about 10 of them, and then 2 weeks later I planted 10 more, and then about 2 weeks later I planted 10, and I did that, all along the fence and in the garden. They're all blooming at the same time. I don't know how that works. Anyway, here is one of the sunflowers that is starting to bloom. And then I have those teddy bear sunflowers in between the glads. And here is what I call an African daisy. And it had finished blooming, and I cut it all back, and now it's starting to have its second bloom. But isn't that pretty? The little light lavender with the dark center. I like that. I think it's cute. There's a delphinium that's not doing as well as the other one over the other side. And here are some daylilies that I got from a friend of mine that they were her dad's. And so, you know, they're handed down and mean something. They're not blooming this year. I don't know if they're just late bloomers. She said that hers just started blooming. But I haven't had any luck with mine. They bloomed last year, but I'm not having them. They haven't bloomed yet this year. I hope they do. They're this beautiful orange. And then I am just surprised as heck that these little violets are still blooming. This is the area where I'm going to put the hydrangea. That is going to love it in the shade. And there I have a beautiful orange zinnia. I'm hoping that I cut it back or clip the top, so I'm hoping that I'll get a little bit more larger ones. And then that is a beautiful dark purple salvia. I am getting more of that. It's in the middle, just probably in another month maybe it'll have its second bloom. Oh my gosh, that thing was beautiful. Hummingbirds loved it. There's a hosta, and then we're over at my shade garden. My small shade garden. See, these ones over here, the violets have just about... They do have some good seed pods in there, so I am going to save them. Have hostas blooming. Oh, Brania? Is that what that's called? Beautiful. I let it go to seed, hoping that I would get more of them next year, because I do kind of have 2 or 3 shade gardens that they would do well in it. Lamium. I have 3 or 4 of those. I'm hoping that they will come back next year. Sometimes if we have a light winter, they said that they could come back, but if not, I'll just get some more. And then I'm going to show you my pot, even though I'm embarrassed to show it. At the beginning of the year, I just couldn't wait to have glads planted, so I planted like about 20 in this pot, and they have not done well. There's finally one that is starting to bloom, but these, I planted them 2-3 weeks before the other ones, and they're just not doing so well. This, I'm excited about this. We cut down one bush already, and there's going to be, there goes a plane from the airport. We're cutting down that bush too. And there's a lady on the internet, you know, she's one of the people that I listen to all the time, and she talks about that if you have a space that's 3 feet wide and 10 feet long, she gives you the instructions on how to grow cut flowers that you'll be able to have a bouquet every week for, I don't know, for like about through most of the summer. So that's what I'm doing with that area. So I'm so excited about it. Our yard debris thing can only take 1 bush each week, so we have to wait to cut down that one. And then we're going to move this azalea. It's a beautiful azalea in the springtime, but I want that space for that cut flower garden. And there I have some more of those daylilies that haven't bloomed yet. And I have no idea. I got this out of a grab bag. I have no idea what color that dahlia is going to be. And here's a hosta that did not do well in the heat again. But you know, hostas, you just cut them back, and they grow back. There's our tomatoes. I've been eating on the cherry tomatoes. I had to put everything back here in the shade and water them like 4 or 5 times a day during the heat wave. And then, oh, I'm forgetting the name of this. I guess it's a lily. I just cut one of them today. They never bloomed. And I've had these before, and I knew that they had beautiful orange blooms on them, but Wally never watered them, and he never fertilized them. So, I have blooms all over the place. have one in one of my vases in the house right now. So that's cool. And there's my cherry tomato plant. I do have some vegetables and berries and stuff like that in the backyard. But what's pretty is when you look down that way. Oh, that is my stick pile. That's for when I need to put sticks behind the gladiolus. We had a couple of trees and bushes that we cut on, so I saved them. I saved some of the limbs so that I could use them. Next year, I'm not putting, in the sun, I'm not putting glads in that. I'm going to have some beautiful, like, pansies and petunias and some colorful, beautiful plants in there instead of doing that. That was kind of a waste of space, but you learn. And then down the yard and back to where we started in the spring. That right there, where is it? That right there is a beautiful dogwood tree, but it's not bloom anymore. I love that tree. Anyway, there it is, my mid-July tour of the yard. Lots of things have grown. Lots and lots of things have grown and changed. I am moving things around. I think that's part of a garden, is that you learn what you like and what you don't like, and you get more of what you like and you make more spaces. So that's what we're doing, and you'll just find that out when you're making a garden, that things change every year. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the summer. I might do a tour in August, and if not, I'll at least go up to the Portland Rose Garden and do a tour. Everyone enjoy gardening this summer, and have a good evening.